All right, let's shift to checking in with you all about what's happening, what you're noticing. And we'll see if I have anything to say about it. How's your enjoyment life this week? Anybody work with something that was intrinsically unpleasant? Find the enjoyment in it. I know Mickey just talked about something we do like stretching. It doesn't feel like too far of a reach to enjoy. Anybody do that? Louise?
Something that worked for me this week, my car was in the body shop because for a couple of different reasons. A deer hit me, but then I hit a snowbank. And I went and picked it up on Saturday morning and didn't need the heater because it was a really nice day, and just, enjoyed being back in my car. It had been a week and I missed it so much. So then Monday morning, I didn't go anywhere on Sunday. And later in the day, we went with my husband's car. So I didn't drive it again until Monday morning. Well, it was a bit cold Monday morning, so I put the heater on, and this terrible chemical smell came out. And I, obviously right away, and I'm very sensitive to chemicals and molds and dust, and, I have that kind of group allergies. And it was very unpleasant, but I figured out that I could open the windows and just put my hat back on, make sure my gloves were on, have the steering wheel be warm because it's got a heater. And I didn't have to go too far. So I just enjoyed the drive. You don't usually open the windows in the wintertime when it's cold. And it made a big difference because I knew that if I didn't, I was kind of forced to open the windows because I knew that if I didn't, I'd end up with a headache. And it was enjoyable. So it worked out. And then I found, then I went and took it back to the body shop and discovered that indeed the air conditioning unit needed replacing because it had gotten damaged when I hit the snowbank. But it's all been a pleasant experience because I was able to adapt and enjoy making my nose not be up, I figured out how to not feel like I was taking in those fumes, and therefore could feel good in the face of this, terrible smell that at first made me tighten up and be scared.
Right. You found a solution.
Yeah.
And
then I took it back to the body shop and they really found a solution.
Yeah. And driving down the road with the windows open and your hat on isn't so bad. It's good to know you have that option.
It was actually very nice.
All right. Good. Thank you. It's a good story. Anyone else have a story to tell from what you're noticing in the aversion department? Let's start with Susan.
So, just briefly, I had this experience where I kept checking in with the body and looking for enjoyment, and I kept feeling I'm doing this wrong. I'm doing this wrong. I'm not feeling any enjoyment here. And then there was this sudden shift and this recognition. Oh, right. This is grief, and almost a sense of relief, like, oh, okay, I know this. This is what's happening. And I did a lot of inquiry after about enjoyment. And at least for me, for now, and I actually looked up the etymology of enjoyment to see again if I was missing something. I was like, pleasure. I was like, no pleasure. Nope, definitely not pleasure. But what there was presence.
Mm.
I wouldn't call it enjoyment, but I would call it presence. And it was a big relief from kind of like trying to get to enjoyment. It was like, okay, I know this one and it's presence and this is okay. So, yeah.
Good. I like that discovery. Because what I mean by enjoyment isn't always quite like what you're going to read in the dictionary about enjoyment. It's not necessarily about pleasure. It's really the heart's freedom in any situation. And so presence is another word for the heart's freedom to actually be, to show up fully for an experience. So if there's grief and you show up for it, there's something that happens that I might use the word enjoyment for, even though it's painful. There's something real and profound. There's a profound kind of living that's happening when you show up, say, for a moment of grief. And so if you can put it that way, you're like really living, so to speak, in that moment, even though it's not a pleasant one. That's how I would say that. So I'm glad you came to the word presence. That's exactly where I'd want you to go in that sort of experience. Catalina.
Well, talking about enjoyment, but more like I have a granddaughter and I take care of her. We have a room for her in our house, and but it's because it's for cold. We keep it to keep the house warm. We keep that room closed unless she comes. So sometimes I go in there, and the other day I had come several times there, and the smell of her and poop. That is her part of her. And they said, oh my God, this room smells like her. It's kind of a little perfume and also poops. And I have to wash everything. But at the same time it got a lot of love, like feeling,
Yes.
Feeling that smell. It was totally love for this human being that is totally joy, so that is similar to your story. That's something that is supposed to be not good, and like we're trying to wash everything, clean everything, disinfect everything, but that smell reminds me of love. So that's part of my experience.
Yeah, beautiful example of how something intrinsically unpleasant, and I think instinctually that's a bad smell for us, it isn't so bad when there's love. In that context, isn't so bad. And, having changed many diapers in my life, not a big deal. All right, thanks. That's a good example of that. What else, folks? You're doing great. You're getting it. Yeah, Win.
Okay, good evening. Good evening. So I picked up a new hobby, and that is I'm recording music, like my own music. Yeah, it's and so when learning the software is a big part of it, and it's not all that simple. This recording software, and what I had done with my second song, I'm in the middle of recording my second song, is I kind of had the main part of the song all recorded, and I conjured up this intro to the song. So I was all excited. I had this introduction, but the thing is, you've got to move the main part of the song to the right a bunch, so you have room to then put in your intro. And I'm thinking, this isn't going to be hard. I'll just move, it'll be like whatever, shift all, I don't know. Well, it took me 3 hours to figure out how to move the song 6 bars to leave room for the introduction. And by the way, the 3 hours, there wasn't anything that was enjoyable about that. Like, you're going through YouTube videos, and you turn on yet another YouTube video, and you have to hear an ad at the beginning of the YouTube video, and none of them are giving you your answers. But eventually, I figured it out, and I put the introduction to the song in, and then I played it back, and it was it was pretty enjoyable hearing the intro to the song. So that's so it was a little bit of kind of pushing through the pain and the discomfort and getting to that point where I had what I thought was one step closer to a finished product, and that was enjoyable.
Okay, yeah, you kind of put your finger on something that is challenging for me, like enjoying going down the rabbit hole to try to get some piece of information that I need, the YouTube rabbit hole, it's a challenge. I think there's possibly, a certain way to do that. There's a certain attitude, but it's challenging for me to do that and not feel some aversion to all of that.
Yeah, I mean, one of the ways that I get stuck is if I can't figure it out, I start feeling a little bit sorry for myself in the form of, it shouldn't be this hard. Why is it this isn't fair, this isn't right?
Yeah, you start to feel like a victim of something.
Exactly.
Right. Either you feel like a victim of something or you feel incompetent, so that's the other thing. You can start attacking yourself for what a loser you are. You can't actually find what you need. So that's the other alternative my mind would tend to go to, is some sort of criticism, which is, it's an interesting thing. In the Buddhist sutras, there's this story that's often told, that the Buddha said that what the mind is like, it's like a hunter who's out hunting and accidentally someone shoots his foot. And so he's in all this pain because an arrow is sticking into his foot. And then he takes out his bow. He's so upset, and he shoots another arrow into his foot. And he said that would be a ridiculous thing to do. And yet that's what our minds do around things that are difficult, is they shoot the second arrow. We're already facing some sort of frustration, and then we turn it around. We turn against ourselves, or we create this whole story of, poor me, whatever, and it compounds the suffering. So that's called the second arrow. So in some ways, what we're talking about tonight is not shooting the second arrow, or at least noticing that you're doing it. That's sometimes the best we can do, is to notice how we're compounding our suffering, even when we feel compelled to do so. All right, thanks, Wynn.
Thank you.
Louise.
Well, listening to Wynn reminded me of all the times that I've done the same thing, and it's usually, in front of the computer, and all the things that you said make sense to me from my own experience. And at the same time, as an educator, I'm very aware that if I can provide an opportunity for enjoyment for my student, it makes learning easier and deeper.
Absolutely,
so
yes.
I have tried, and I'm going to try again. When I get in that situation that you were in, I think a great challenge is to, okay, this isn't coming easy. Take a breath. How can I enjoy learning what I need to learn to solve this problem? And I guess and maybe this isn't a good expectation, but my assumption might be that I could get there sooner if I can turn on, turn off the frustration and turn on an enjoyment of a discovery of figuring it out.
Right. The intelligence of the mind will work so much better if you're not frustrated. Yes, then you're actually enjoying, or there's interest. That's absolutely the case.
It's a great challenge anyway.
It is, yeah. And how to kind of interrupt that moment of computer panic, for example, of you don't know how to do something, something's just gone wrong. There's this helpless sort of feeling. I get it so strongly. And what's interesting is I can watch that happen and then also watch something later like I figure it out and it's no big deal, but something in that moment seizes us. So anything you can do to make it enjoyable, which can also include just taking a break, can also include just leaving the task for a while and coming back to it afresh when you're more ready to learn or you're calmed down, when your mind is open again. These things are not, they're not rocket science, as they say. There's nothing so extraordinarily difficult about understanding what we're talking about. It's the doing of it. It's the actual practicing of it that is so important, of noticing when aversion arises, noticing whether there's anything really intrinsically unpleasant in the situation, and seeing what the possibilities are of letting the aversion go, finding a different relationship to what's going on. So continue to notice what out there is aversion completely of your own making, that you can turn around. Okay, and have a good week.